My dad wrote me out of his will for not being a doctor. His doctor, Stepson, just got arrested for fraud. If you want to keep hearing stories like this, please subscribe. And we'd love it if you drop a quick hello from your city or country. The smell of burnt roast chicken filled Dad's dining room, but nobody mentioned it. We were too busy pretending everything was normal. I smoothed my navy scrubs, still wearing them from my 12-hour shift as a registered nurse, and watched my father beam at Luke across the mahogany table. "Tell everyone about the surgery you performed today, son," Dad said, his voice dripping with pride he'd never used for me. Luke adjusted his designer glasses, flashing that perfect smile. "Just a routine cardiac bypass. Nothing too exciting." He was 32, my stepbrother for 5 years since Dad married his mother, Linda. Everything about him screamed success: the Rolex, the BMW keys casually tossed on the table, the way he commanded every room. I stabbed at my overcooked vegetables. "That's impressive. Which hospital again?" "Mercy General," he answered smoothly. "Speaking of which, Dad, I wanted to discuss my new research opportunity in Switzerland." Dad's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. "Switzerland? My son, the international surgeon." "Actually, Dad, I got accepted into," I started. "Not now, Jasmine," he cut me off. "Luke is speaking." The words hit like a slap. 28 years old, and I was still invisible. I'd been trying to tell him about my acceptance into the nurse practitioner program at Howard University for weeks. But Luke's stories always took priority. Linda touched Dad's arm possessively. "Luke has always been exceptional. Remember when he graduated top of his class at Harvard Medical?" I remembered differently. I remembered Dad missing my college graduation because Luke had a medical conference. I remembered every birthday forgotten, every achievement dismissed. I remembered when Dad told me nursing was just babysitting with needles. But that night, I didn't know my memories were about to become weapons. 2 months later, Dad called me to his study. The room smelled of leather and old cigars, his sanctuary where he'd built his accounting empire. He sat behind his desk, fingers steepled like a villain in a movie. I knew that look. It meant business. "Jasmine, sit down." I perched on the edge of the chair, my stomach churning. "What's going on?" He slid a folder across the desk. "I've updated my will. I wanted you to know directly from me, not through lawyers later." My hands trembled as I opened it. The words blurred together, but certain phrases jumped out: sole beneficiary. Luke Thompson, medical contributions to society, decision made with sound mind. "You're leaving everything to Luke." My voice cracked. "He's a doctor, Jasmine. He's changing lives. You chose a simpler path." Dad's eyes held no warmth. "Luke will do something meaningful with the inheritance. The house, the business, the accounts, $3.2 million, it'll fund his research. I save lives every day." I stood up, the folder falling. I held Mrs. Patterson's hand when she died last week because her family couldn't make it. I caught a medication error that would have killed a teenager. "You're a nurse." He said it like a curse. "Luke is a surgeon. There's a difference. Linda helped me see that you've always been adequate. But Luke is exceptional." "Linda?" "Of course. She'd been poisoning him against me since their wedding. I'd watched her systematically erase my mother's memory from this house, replacing Mom's photos with pictures of Luke in his white coat. "Mom would be ashamed of you," I whispered. "Your mother died 10 years ago." His voice turned cold. "Linda is my wife now. This is my decision." I walked out, leaving the folder scattered on his Persian rug. I ugly cried in my car for 20 minutes before calling my best friend, Tasha. We'd been inseparable since nursing school, and she'd witnessed every humiliation my father had served. Girl, breathe. Meet me at Rosie's diner. Now. 30 minutes later, I slid into our usual booth, the one with the cracked red vinyl. Tasha pushed a chocolate milkshake toward me, our emergency protocol since forever. He actually did it, I said, voice raw. Left everything to Luke. Like I'm nothing. Tasha's jaw clenched. That's beyond messed up. But honestly, I'm not surprised. Your dad's been treating you like the help since Linda slithered in. The worst part? I still love him. How pathetic is that? It's not pathetic. It's human. She leaned forward. But Jasmine, I need to tell you something. I've been debating for weeks, but now, you need to know. My heart stopped. What? You remember my cousin DeAndre? Works in hospital administration. She paused. He ran into Luke at a conference last month. Except Luke acted like he didn't know him. Weird, right? Because DeAndre swears they've never met, but Luke should work at Mercy General. Maybe DeAndre forgot. That's what I thought. So I did some digging. Tasha pulled out her phone. Luke Thompson isn't listed in the medical directory. Not for Mercy General, not for anywhere in the state. The diner's fluorescent lights suddenly felt too bright. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe you should check if your perfect stepbrother is actually a doctor. The milkshake turned sour in my stomach. That's insane. He has a white coat, hospital stories. So does every actor on Grey's Anatomy. Tasha's eyes blazed. Look, I could be wrong. But doesn't it feel too perfect? Too convenient? I couldn't sleep that night. Tasha's words circled my brain like vultures. At 3 a.m., I grabbed my laptop and started searching. Luke Thompson, Harvard Medical School, no results. Luke Thompson, cardiac surgeon, nothing. Luke Thompson, Mercy General Hospital, blank. My hands shook as I expanded the search. The American Medical Association database showed 0 doctors named Luke Thompson matching his age and location. I checked state licensing boards. Nothing. I even called Mercy General's main line and asked for Dr. Luke Thompson. I'm sorry, ma'am. We have no physician by that name on staff. Could you check visiting surgeons? Consultants? I've checked all databases. No Luke Thompson has privileges at this facility. I hung up, my world tilting. 5 years. 5 years of stories about surgeries, patients, medical conferences. 5 years of Dad worshipping Luke's every word while dismissing my actual medical career. I needed proof. Real, undeniable proof. The next day, I called in sick, first time in 3 years, and drove to Dad's house when I knew everyone would be at work. Linda was at her book club Wednesdays. Luke claimed morning surgeries. Dad was at his office. I still had my old key. The house was silent, haunted by memories of Mom. I headed straight for Luke's bedroom, heart hammering. His room was pristine, almost sterile. Medical textbooks lined the shelves, props, I realized, their spines uncreased. His closet held 3 white coats, all perfectly pressed. I checked the pockets. Empty. No ID badges, no hospital keycards, no stethoscope with his name engraved. What doctor doesn't carry identification? Then I found his laptop, carelessly left open on his desk. The laptop glowed like a confession. I knew this was wrong, invasion of privacy, all that, but something deeper drove me forward. Call it intuition. Call it desperation. Call it 5 years of watching my father choose a stranger over his daughter. Luke's email was open. I scrolled through medical conference confirmations, hospital correspondence, research proposals. Everything looked legitimate until I noticed the patterns. Same template, different letterheads. Same writing style across supposedly different institutions. I opened his documents folder. My breath caught. Letterhead_templates.zip. Fake_medical_license_v3.pdf. Email_correspondence_scripts.doc. My hands trembled as I clicked through files. He'd created an entire fictional medical career. Fake diplomas from Harvard, Johns Hopkins, Stanford. Templates for surgical reports. Scripts for conversations about procedures he'd never performed. But it got worse. A folder labeled Financial contained spreadsheets tracking money. Not medical income, wire transfers, cash deposits, cryptocurrency transactions. Hundreds of thousands of dollars moving through accounts. Another document listed names, elderly patients, their conditions, their families. These weren't his patients. They were his marks. I photographed everything with my phone, hands shaking so badly I had to retake half the shots. Then I found the email thread that made my blood ice over. Subject, Dad's estate, timeline. Luke to Linda, he's signing the new will next week. Once that's done and the old man's assets are secured, we can accelerate the Swiss plan. The account is ready. He'll never know what hit him. Linda's response, perfect. Jasmine's suspicions. Luke, 0. She's too busy playing nurse. 3.2 million will set us up perfectly. The other investments are liquid and ready to transfer. They were planning to rob my father blind. I sat in that bedroom for hours, my entire world reconstructing itself. This wasn't about inheritance anymore. This was fraud, theft, conspiracy. My father was being played by the woman he trusted and the son he adored. Part of me wanted to scream. Part of me wanted to laugh at the cosmic irony. But mostly, I felt something cold and clear settle in my chest, purpose. I couldn't go to Dad directly. He'd chosen Luke over me repeatedly. He'd never believe his perfect Dr. Stepson was a con artist. I needed help from someone he might actually listen to. I called Uncle Ray, Dad's younger brother and law partner. They'd built their firm together 40 years ago. If anyone could reach Dad, it was Ray. Jasmine. Sweetheart, what's wrong? Uncle Ray, I need you to listen without interrupting. This is going to sound insane. I took a breath. Luke isn't a doctor. He's a con artist, and he and Linda are planning to steal from Dad. Silence stretched for 10 heartbeats. You have proof. Thank God for lawyers. Photos, emails, fake documents. Everything. Send them to my encrypted email. Now. Don't tell anyone else. His voice turned hard. If you're right, and I suspect you are because I've never trusted that boy, we need to be strategic. Your father won't believe you alone. I know. The words tasted bitter. But he'll believe police reports and federal investigators. I have contacts at the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. A colleague's daughter. He paused. This might take time, Jasmine. Can you stay quiet? Let them think everything's normal. How long? Weeks, maybe months. They'll need to build a case. But sweetheart. His voice softened. I'm proud of you. Your mother would be too. I cried then, really cried. Playing normal was torture. Family dinners became theater where I smiled and nodded while Luke spun his medical fiction. Linda squeezed Dad's hand possessively. Dad beamed at his perfect stepson. And I sat there, knowing everything, saying nothing. Jasmine, you look tired, Linda said one evening, her voice dripping false concern. Maybe nursing is too stressful. Luke could help you find something easier. I wanted to throw my wine in her face. Instead, I smiled. I'm fine, Linda. Just been picking up extra shifts. Luke leaned back, that insufferable smile in place. You work too hard for too little, sis. The medical field has better opportunities if you'd gone to medical school. Not everyone can be as accomplished as you, Luke, I said sweetly. The irony burned my tongue. Dad nodded. Luke is right. You should have pushed harder, Jasmine. Look at what ambition achieves. Uncle Ray shot me a warning look from across the table. We'd been coordinating secretly, feeding information to Agent Sarah Morrison at the FBI. She was building a case, connecting Luke to a string of medical fraud schemes across 3 states. Turned out, Luke and Linda were professionals. They'd been running this con for 12 years, targeting wealthy older men. Luke would pose as a successful doctor, Linda would seduce and marry the mark, then they'd drain accounts and disappear. But this time, they'd gotten greedy. They'd stayed longer, taken more. And they'd underestimated the daughter they'd dismissed. Actually, Dad, I said carefully, I've been thinking about what you said. About doing more with my career. His eyes flickered with interest, the first he'd shown in months. Go on. Agent Morrison's plan was elegant in its simplicity. We'd give Luke and Linda exactly what they wanted, access to Dad's money. Then we'd watch them take it. Your uncles arranged for your father to transfer funds to a new investment account, Agent Morrison explained in her downtown office. It's actually a monitored FBI account. The moment they touch that money, we have them for wire fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy. How long until they move? I asked. Days, maybe a week. Criminals like this can't resist an easy score. She studied me carefully. This is hard on you. Watching your father be deceived. He chose to be deceived, I said bitterly. He chose them over me at every turn. He's still your father. Then he should have acted like it. The words hung between us, heavy with years of pain. Uncle Ray arranged a family meeting at Dad's house that Saturday. Estate planning discussion, he called it. Linda's eyes gleamed. Luke adjusted his fake glasses. Dad sat at the head of the table, looking older than his 63 years. Ray suggested consolidating some assets. Luke, given your medical expertise and research needs, I'm setting up a trust fund. $2 million, accessible immediately for your Switzerland project. Luke's performance was Oscar-worthy. Dad, I couldn't possibly. Nonsense. You're my son. Dad's voice cracked with emotion. This is what family does. I watched Linda's hand tighten on her wine glass. This was more than they'd hoped for. The emails we'd intercepted showed they'd planned to steal gradually. Dad was handing them everything at once. That's incredibly generous, Linda purred. Luke, you should transfer the research proposals to your father. Show him what he's investing in. Of course. Luke pulled out his laptop, the one I'd photographed weeks ago. 3 days later, Luke moved the money. Not to Switzerland. To a cryptocurrency account registered to a shell company in the Cayman Islands. Agent Morrison called at 6 a.m. We've got them. Financial fraud, wire transfer violations, identity theft across state lines. There's more too. Luke has outstanding warrants in California and Nevada. Similar cons, other victims. When do you arrest them? This morning. We wanted to give you a heads up. Your father will need you. I laughed, the sound harsh. Will he though? But I went. I drove to Dad's house and waited in my car, watching the street. At 7:30, 3 black SUVs rolled up. Agents in FBI jackets emerged like a coordinated dance. I watched them knock. Watched Dad answer, confusion on his face. Watched Luke try to run out the back, only to be tackled by agents. Watched Linda's face contort from beauty to rage as they read her rights. Then I saw Dad collapse. My training kicked in. I was out of the car and running before conscious thought. Dad! Someone call 911. He was clutching his chest, face gray. Heart attack. I checked his pulse, thready and rapid. Started chest compressions while yelling instructions to the nearest agent. You're going to be okay, I repeated, my voice steady despite everything. Stay with me, Dad. Breathe. The ambulance arrived in 4 minutes. The EMTs took over, loading Dad onto a gurney. As they worked, his eyes found mine. Jasmine. His voice was barely audible. I'm here. I'm sorry. Then he lost consciousness. I rode in the ambulance, holding his hand, my anger momentarily drowned by terror that I might lose him. Dad survived. 72 hours in ICU, followed by a transfer to cardiac care. I stayed the entire time, still wearing my scrubs from the night shift I'd abandoned when Agent Morrison called. Uncle Ray brought coffee and updates. Luke and Linda are in federal custody. No bail, flight risk. The prosecutors building charges: conspiracy to commit fraud, wire fraud, identity theft, practicing medicine without a license, elder abuse. How many victims? 8 that they've confirmed. Elderly men with assets. They'd marry in, drain accounts, disappear. Your father was the longest con. 5 years. Why so long? Uncle Ray's jaw tightened. His assets were larger. And they were enjoying themselves. Playing house. Living off his money while planning the big score. I stared at Dad through the ICU window. Machines beeped, tubes ran from his arms. He looked small, vulnerable. Human. He wouldn't believe me, I said quietly. If I'd gone to him directly, he would have chosen Luke. I know, honey. Uncle Ray squeezed my shoulder. He was blind. Love does that sometimes. Or whatever he felt for Linda. He stopped loving me when Mom died. Like he forgot I was hers too. That's not true. Yes, it is. I turned to face my uncle. He resented me. I look like her. Sound like her. Every time he saw me, he saw what he lost. So he replaced us. New wife, new son. Perfect family. He's awake, a nurse called. I walked into the room, my heart a stone. Dad's eyes tracked me, tears sliding down his weathered cheeks. You saved my life, he whispered. I'm a nurse, I replied flatly. It's what I do. Dad requested no other visitors. Just me. For 3 days, I sat beside his hospital bed, and he talked. Really talked, maybe for the first time in 10 years. Your mother's death destroyed me, he started. She was my everything. When the cancer took her, I wanted to die too. You were 18, heading to college. I was drowning. I listened, silent. Linda appeared at exactly the right time. She was beautiful, attentive, alive. She made me feel something besides grief. And Luke, he was successful, impressive. Everything I thought a son should be. You had a daughter, I said coldly. I know. His voice broke. I know, Jasmine. And I failed you. When I looked at you, I saw your mother's eyes, her smile, her stubbornness. It hurt too much. So I pushed you away. I convinced myself you were fine, strong, independent. That you didn't need me. I always needed you. I'm sorry. He reached for my hand. I didn't pull away, but I didn't squeeze back either. I let Linda poison me against you. Every achievement you shared, she'd diminish. Every time you called, she'd remind me how Luke was doing something more important. She was methodical, surgical. He laughed bitterly. Ironic choice of words. She's a con artist, Dad. You were a mark. I was a fool. He looked at me directly. You investigated Luke. Gathered evidence. Coordinated with Ray and the FBI. You could have let them take my money. God knows I deserved it for how I treated you. But you saved me instead. I didn't do it for you, I admitted. I did it because it was right. Because despite everything, you're still my father. The machines beeped steadily in the silence. You're more like your mother than I realized, Dad finally said. The trial was a media circus. Fake doctor and wife con elderly men blared from every headline. Luke's mugshot went viral, the handsome fraud in designer glasses. Linda's lawyers tried claiming she was manipulated, but the evidence was overwhelming. They'd stolen over $8 million across 12 years. The previous victims came forward, elderly men who'd been too embarrassed to report it. One man had committed suicide after losing his life savings. I testified at the preliminary hearing. The prosecutor asked me to walk through my investigation, how I discovered the truth, gathered evidence, contacted authorities. Luke stared at me from the defendant's table, his expression finally stripped of charm. Just rage and hatred. You ruined everything, he mouthed. I smiled coldly and continued testifying. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Luke got 18 years in federal prison. Linda got 15. Dad attended every day of the trial, sitting in the back row. Afterward, he approached me outside the courthouse. I need to make this right, he said. I've already had my will rewritten. Everything goes to you, the house, the business, the accounts. Whatever Luke and Linda didn't steal, it's yours. I don't want your money, Dad. Then what do you want? I looked at him, really looked at this man who'd raised me, disappointed me, broken my heart, and nearly lost everything to liars. I want my father back, I whispered. The one who used to make pancakes on Sundays. Who taught me to ride a bike. Who sat with me in the hospital when I broke my arm at 9 years old. Dad's face crumpled. I want that too. More than anything. But I don't know if he still exists. Then I guess we'll have to rebuild him. 6 months later, I walked across the stage at Howard University, accepting my nurse practitioner degree. The ceremony was packed with family, friends, colleagues. But my eyes found one face in the crowd. Dad sat front row, holding a banner Tasha had made, "That's my daughter, the real doctor in the family." His eyes shone with tears and pride. After the ceremony, he handed me a small velvet box. "This was your mother's," he said. Inside sat her stethoscope, the one she'd used as a nurse in the 80s. She always said you'd be twice the nurse she was. She was right. I held the stethoscope like a lifeline. You kept this. I kept everything of hers. Locked away because it hurt too much to look. But you deserve to have her with you. He paused. She'd be so proud, Jasmine. And so am I. We weren't perfect. Some wounds take more than months to heal. Dad started therapy, working through his grief and guilt. We had dinner every Sunday, just us, rebuilding what had been broken. The settlement from Luke and Linda's victims fund recovered some of Dad's money. He donated it all to nursing scholarships in Mom's name. My practice thrived. Uncle Ray connected me with community health clinics, and I specialized in cardiac care, fitting, given how my father's heart attack had brought us back together. One Sunday, Dad asked, "Do you forgive me?" I thought about it carefully. I'm working on it. Some days are easier than others. But I'm trying. That's all I can ask. He smiled, and for the first time in years, it reached his eyes. Your mother would say that's enough. I squeezed his hand. Yeah. She would. We weren't the family we used to be. But maybe, just maybe, we could become something new. Something honest. Something real. And that was enough. Last thought experiment for you. 5 years from now, do you think Jasmine will be thanking herself for this decision, or wondering what if? I'm genuinely curious about your prediction. Let me know in the comments. And if these stories about people choosing their sanity over toxic relationships speak to your soul, subscribe and turn on those notifications. You won't want to miss the next one.